Happy Black History Month from T-Wolves Gaming.
So when did I learn about Black history? So it's interesting because I'm mixed, so it's black and white. So I always got the cultural talks, I always got the race talk, I always got it. So, growing up in middle school, elementary school, you always, you do Black History Month, you write your essays, you do it. So America's really good over going, it's like the white history and telling you the good that happens a lot. And then, with Black, you always go over slavery. And then there's some more things like Black Wall Street, some more things I started to get into as I got into college, that it got a little deeper on both sides of it. So I wanted to research things for myself. I started to look everything up on my own.
The first time I learned about Black history wasn't through school. I'd say honestly, just before all the George Floyd stuff happened, you could look at Twitter and they were kind of updating, and then during the whole George Floyd, there was a bunch of things that you could read about Black history that they don't teach in schools. And I mean, going through YouTube and learning some actual information about our culture, is pretty much how I learned Black history.
There 100% should be Black History Month. In fact, that we do get a month, I think that is dope. And as far as people trying to take it away, that's crazy, because we can't take away the past. It happened, and it's more things actually I want to see happen that America give Black people for everything they gained from slavery. So it's more I want them to be compensated and more, but I'm talking money with that, but that's a different topic.
There's been some talk that there shouldn't be a Black History Month or Asian American History Month and Women's History Month. I think it's actually good to have a month. I mean, it sucks, unfortunately, that we got the short end of the stick and we got 28 days unless it's a leap year. It's good to be celebrated and people looking at us specifically and looking past the Rosa Parks and Martin Luther Kings and looking at people that's been doing a lot for the culture and today, up to date, and back in the past. I think it would start with just getting different textbooks, because history is written by the person that's wrote it. And to be honest, who wrote the book is not a Black man or a Spanish man. I think maybe we should definitely look at different perspectives of learning Black history, and it shouldn't just be dedicated through a month. Happy Black History Month from T-Wolves Gaming.
Hi, this is the Minnesota African American Heritage Museum and Gallery, and we've been here at the corner of Plymouth and Penn for about 3 years. How did we get started? We just happened to be going along, making presentations about wanting to have a museum in Minnesota that highlighted African American history and what we contributed to the state. And when we got to the folks that were building this building, they said, "We got a space, would you like it?" We said yes. We've been chugging along ever since, over maybe 20 exhibits so far, trying to offer again that view of what African Americans contributed to this state. Scott, they tried to sue for their freedom. Now, suing for your freedom started long before, and people were doing that all the time, but this ended it. When they sued and it went to the Supreme Court, they said, no, you don't have the right to sue for your freedom. That ended with Harriet and Dred Scott. With Miss Winston here, she sued for her freedom and won, and she had been coached by abolitionists, and as soon as she won it, she went to Canada. Because the services were segregated, African Americans didn't really get to fight all the time in the wars, in those 2 wars, but he did get a chance to fight at the Italian front, and he earned a buffalo patch, so that made him a buffalo soldier. Down here is a small picture of women that were nurses, but even if they were trained nurses, they weren't allowed to touch a white soldier. Again, the services were segregated.
So this says African Americans had mixed emotions about the war. You
Yes.
said white man's war. So what was the mixed emotions at that time?
They wanted to go fight for their country and come back and and then be treated the same as other soldiers.
Gotcha.
That didn't happen.
So they had no plan to just treat them as if everybody else.
Yeah.
So why would you want to fight in the war if you're not gonna? Like,
That's the conflict of it.
that's crazy.
After that conflict, I think it was Truman that desegregated the services.
Gotcha.
And the Korean War was desegregated, and but it's still on a limited basis. Around 1900, they need laborers, and people picked up and they came north. These tell the stories of why they came to Minnesota, why they stayed in Minnesota, why they sent money home, just like any other migrant group, and why they invited their relatives to come and join them. When I talk about this, it always hits home to those who have come to us from different countries too. They always see some kind of separation between us and them, but when they hear that people did the same things just here in the United States, they came from Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, came north, got a job, and says, it's not the best, but it's better than there. You get to buy a house, and you get to own your own car and stuff like this. So come north. How people travel. Also, the Green Book was during this time. The Green Book showed African Americans where they could stay safely, travel routes, towns not to go through, where to get gas and food as they traveled north. He couldn't stay in that hotel where he was performing. The Green Book just kind of shows the adjustment he had to make in order to earn a living while traveling as an entertainer.
That is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was like the 50s,
Absolutely
even
crazy.
into some of the 60s.
That is crazy.
This second floor of Phyllis Wheatley was where entertainers like Duke Ellington and Nat King Cole would stay because they couldn't stay in the hotels downtown. That's a lot to take in.
It's just interesting. It is interesting because that's not. So my grandma is. I have a grandma who's 100, so she's like 101, and it's just interesting because it's not that long ago. Like, it's people alive who experienced a lot of this. So it's just interesting. It's really interesting.
Yeah, well, you know, Minnesota has a very complicated history. John Garrison's, his paintings, he's one of our artists in residence. If you look a little harder at his work, you'll see that he has down here, you can see all along here, symbols. It's an iconogram, and each symbol is attached to a letter to spell out the title of poetry.
You have people like her trying to help and raise awareness. Like, our generation I feel like we don't got that same fight, that same grit that like our ancestors or people before us had. So it's crazy just to, like, every time I come to a museum, it just humbles you because like you feel like you're going through something, but man, these people had to overcome so much. So it's just a humbling experience. It's really humbling.
We do have vision of growing the museum. We are always looking for supporters, groups that will volunteer and participate. And we do have on our website, which is maahmg.org. On our website, there's a donation button there as well. You can become a member as well as other forms of support. We certainly are welcome to have a conversation about that as well.